I get it when you're about to drop a few $100s on a keyboard you've probably only tried in a store demo. The excitement is mixed with a healthy dose of doubt. You're wondering if the feel will translate to your own desk, whether the software integration will actually speed up your workflow, or if you'll end up with a pricey piece of furniture that sits idle. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Those what-if moments are exactly why I wanted to break down the Studiologic SL88 Grand before you decide if it's the right fit for your studio, bedroom, or classroom. First off, the SL88 Grand is built around a graded hammer action that mimics the weight distribution of an acoustic piano. The keys are made from TP40 wood and have an ivory-like texture, which is a step up from the plastic top keys you see on many entry-level controllers. In practice, that means if you sit down after a day of typing and play a chord, the low notes will feel noticeably heavier than the higher ones, just like on a real piano. For anyone who spends a lot of time transitioning between piano pieces and synth patches, that consistency can shave minutes off the relearning curve each time you switch instruments. Now, the real differentiator for the SL88 Grand isn't just the key feel, it's the SL88 software that comes bundled with the unit. This isn't a simple preset loader, it's a deep dive editor that lets you tweak the velocity curve, after-touch response, and even the release time of each individual key. Imagine you're a jazz pianist who likes a snappy response on the middle register for fast runs, but prefers a smoother, more legato feel on the low end for ballads. With SL88, you can map those preferences without having to buy a separate controller or rewire anything. The software runs on both Windows and Mac OS, and it integrates smoothly with the free Cubase LE and Wavelab LE bundles that Studiologic includes. If you're already in a DAW ecosystem, that extra layer of customization can turn a generic keyboard into a personal instrument tailored to how you play. Who should consider the SL88 Grand? If you're a serious piano student or a gigging pianist who needs a portable, stage-ready alternative to a bulky upright, this is a solid option. The graded hammer action gives you the nuanced dynamics you need for classical repertoire, and the programmable zones let you assign different sounds or MIDI channels to specific octaves, handy when you want a piano sound on the left hand and a synth pad on the right without reaching for a second keyboard. It also appeals to producers who want a reliable piano feel for recording melodic parts, especially because the low-latency USB MIDI connection means what you play is what you hear in real time, a must-have when you're trying to capture a fast improvisation. On the flip side, if you're primarily a beatmaker or EDM producer who spends most of your time tweaking knobs and pads, you might find the SL88 Grand a bit overkill. The 88 keys take up a fair amount of desk space, and the lack of dedicated drum pads or assignable performance sliders could make your workflow feel clunkier compared to a controller like the Novation Launchkey or Akai MPK series, which are designed with that genre in mind. Also, while the built-in software is powerful, there's a learning curve. If you're not comfortable digging into MIDI parameters, or you just want a plug-and-play solution, you'll spend a few evenings just figuring out the editor instead of making music. One practical strength that shows up in everyday use is the keyboard's stability when you play aggressively. The wooden keybeds don't wobble, and the hammer action stays consistent even after a marathon practice session. I've watched a friend who records live piano demos for a YouTube channel. After an hour of playing Chopin's etudes, the keys still felt solid, and there was no drift in the velocity curve. That durability translates into less time retuning settings or worrying about worn-out plastic keys, which is a hidden cost you don't see on the spec sheet. A notable weakness is the limited number of programmable pedals. The unit offers 4 pedal inputs, but only 2 are fully assignable in the default firmware. If you rely on a sustain pedal plus a soft pedal and an expression pedal for dynamic control common in classical and film scoring, you'll have to work around the firmware or use a third-party MIDI solution. It's not a deal-breaker, but it adds an extra step for users who need that level of nuance. Another practical consideration is the weight. At around 15 pounds, it's lighter than many weighted action keyboards, yet heavy enough that you'll want a sturdy stand or a dedicated shelf. If you plan to move it between rooms or gigs frequently, factor in a case or a rolling cart. Otherwise, the unit can feel a bit top-heavy on a flimsy desk. Speaking of value, the price point lands in a sweet spot between high-end stage pianos and budget-oriented controllers. You're paying for the